All right, all of you wonderful Express Entry Law Facebook group members. This is Mark Holthe. I am a Canadian immigration lawyer practicing in the beautiful province of Alberta, Canada. Today is, wow, I don't know how many of these I've done. This is another episode of our EE Live Q&A sessions. Now, it's not just questions and answers. Well, I guess kind of it is. But I also take this opportunity to use my teaching degree, as I was a high school teacher, to teach all of you about Express Entry. And so sometimes people ask questions that they trigger inside of me a need to teach. and so through some of the questions that people ask within the group and that I get via email, sometimes they cause me to think, boy, I'm not just going to answer that question, but I am going to try to be more comprehensive. And I'm going to try to explain a little bit more how it all fits together. Because ultimately, giving little short answers within our Express Entry Law Facebook group sometimes just does not do justice or doesn't give me an opportunity enough to explain to you how it really works. So that is one of the reasons why I decided to talk about this whole area of levels planning that the Canadian government does every year. And before I do that, we've got a few people that are on. I want to have everybody to give me that sound check. So give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay. I think everybody can see me all right. It looks like the screen is good. Amro, awesome. Thanks for the thumbs up. Fantastic. Just while we have people popping in, where are you listening from? Let me know where you guys are at. Now they're coming, all those thumbs up. Where are you guys listening in from? I'm really curious. It is 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time right now. The office is pretty much empty here, like it always is. I'm going to spin it a little bit so you can see. That's just back into the hallway. One of these days, I'm going to take you on a little tour so you can see our awesome office here. It's really quite a beautiful building and full of some pretty phenomenal lawyers, and I'm grateful to be one of them here at Stringham LLP in our office here in Lethbridge, Alberta. All right, we've got Calgary, Mohammed. Fantastic. You're just a short drive up the road. We have Tofik says Canada. Where are you in Canada? Tofik. And then Amro is in Egypt. Very cool. Thanks for sharing that, guys. So I promised everyone that I would cover one of the discussions, at least that we have had a lot within our Express Entry group, is related to these rounds of invitations and whether I feel that the numbers are actually going to go down. And I'll be honest, you guys, it is really difficult for anyone to be able to guess what is actually going to be happening and to know how many invitations are going to be extended, to know how low the comprehensive ranking system is actually going to go. It's going to be really difficult for anyone to be able to guess because there are so many factors at play. But this is where I want to start off. And before I get to that, I just want to remind everyone that if you have a question that you'd like to have me discuss in these EE Live Q&As, so Express Entry Live question and answer right here, send me an email to this email address, and you must put EE Live Q&A in the subject line. When you do that, I do a simple search through the hundreds of emails I get every day, and then I pull out the questions that I feel are going to be the most beneficial to all of those who are watching. So that's what I've done at this stage. All right, so thanks for those who've submitted the questions. Now, I also wanted to advise, and I'm also going to give you guys who are listening to this EE Live Q&A the first notification that as of July, I guess it's the 31st, the host, or I should say the sponsor of these EE Live Q&As is the Canadian Immigration Institute, which I am the founder of, and the Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide to Doing It Yourself. I am going to shut it down. So I'm going to close the cart so that no new people can access it starting July 31st. and then I'm going to reopen it at a later date, renewed, refreshed, and completely refurbished. In other words, I'm going to be adding a whole bunch more of these questions and answers to it, and I'm also going to be improving some of the quality of some of the videos that are in there. But notwithstanding that, I think there's some people here that actually are on the EE Live Q&A that are currently subscribed to it. And you don't have to worry, your subscription will not change. You will continue to have access and you'll be able to continue forward. It's just I'm going to close the cart to new people who want to subscribe to it. So if you do want to subscribe to the EE complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself, you need to do that before the end of July because I will be closing it off. All right, so I just thought I'd let everybody know that. And I'll put a link in the comment section below. All right, so we'll pull that off. Okay, so in the last preview to this Q&A, you will have recalled, if you listened to it, and there were over 2,000 people that did, I just talked about a few little housekeeping matters that I want to reiterate. So if you send me emails to this email address and you do not put EE Live Q&A in them, and you just say, hey Mark, can you assess my qualifications? I'm going to refer them to Charlene, my assistant, to schedule a paid consultation. And I'm happy to do that with all those people, but I cannot answer all of your specific questions within the confines of my firm here. They expect me to bill and to actually pay for my presence here. So all of the general questions need to go to my email, but with this in the subject line, and then I will consider them for this Q&A. Okay, we're done with that. Now it is time for us to jump into the substance of this Q&A. And right off the bat, I want to share an email that I received here. And this email is from Margarita. Thank you, Margarita, for sending this email in. It says, hi, Mark. First of all, thank you so much for the wonderful information you share on your podcast and now on Facebook. I enjoy a lot listening to you. Thank you, Margarita. I appreciate that. Now my question. Taking into account that the lowest score till this date has been 415, well, it's actually been a little bit lower than that. Do you recommend to keep an active profile with 368 points? Is it worth it? The reason I ask is because the language test and the ECA must be up to date, and that costs a lot of money. And so I agree with you that it sure does. Actually, I have 396 right now, but in August, the points are going to drop because of my birthday, and I don't have a way to increase them. Now, I'm just looking at the birthday here. 396 down to 368 is quite a significant drop. And so I would definitely want to review that and make sure if that's accurate. Anyways, Margarita says, thank you very much for answering my question. Okay, so that's Margarita's question. And she's asking about, is it worth it at a total of 368 points to keep your profile in the queue? All right, so I'll set that one aside. And I'm just going to see, I think I have another one that relates to it. I'm going to put them both in if I have it here. No, that's it. Okay, so this is Margarita. So this question blows up this whole other area, and I've had lots of people who are constantly asking, hey, if I have 400 comprehensive ranking system points, should I keep it in the profile? And I will answer that in one simple way. If you are around 400 points, so if you're close, then I think in every circumstance it's worth it to keep it in your profile. But if you start to drop below 390 points, in my opinion, and this is not law, it's not a guaranteed fact, it's not a prophecy. Based on the scores that we've seen so far, I believe that if you have a comprehensive ranking score of lower than 390 points, then it's probably not likely this year that you're going to receive an invitation to apply. So let me explain. And this is where I'm going to shift, and I'm going to share with you my screen, and I'm going to share this page right here. All right. So, and actually, do you know what? I'm going to go here first, okay? So this right here, this document, and I'm going to see if I can blow it up. I'm not sure if I can. Oh, I can make it larger. Oh, I love Max. Okay, this right here is the 2017-18 Departmental Plan for Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada. So this is where they determine how many immigrants they're actually going to let in every year. So if you look at these plans, you can see this chart. It shows how many economic immigrants, so this is people that are not being sponsored by family, they're not refugees, these are people that are immigrating because of their human capital, essentially their high education, their high work experience, and all of those, their good language, all those factors. So you can see how the levels have increased. Well, this year they're projecting that the total amount, and if we go up here, I'm going to show you. So for permanent economic residence admission levels for 2017, they're looking at between 164,100 to 183,500. Okay, so that's how many total economic immigrants they plan to land as permanent residents in Canada. So keep that in mind. So that kind of a range, if you look at the average, well, you're probably looking at like around 172 or 173,000. That's how many they're looking at coming in. So here's what people do. I'm going to shift here. They go through and they look at this and they say, okay, let's look at these rounds of invitations. And you will all see, and I'll blow this up big again. I think everybody can see that. We just had one today. And lots of people were asking, is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? Well, it still stayed fairly high at 450 points, and there were 3,202 people given an invitation. And so if you look down here on this site, and all of you, if you've got an image you can enlarge here, this is the link to the rounds of invitations, and you can just type in your Google browser, EE Rounds of Invitations Canada, and that will probably take you right to this site if you're using a good Google browser, if you're able to, in your country. But you can see here, this was the breakdown. As of July 6th, 2017, this was the breakdown of candidates in the pool, and probably it increased a little bit from today's date, July the 12th. But right about 6 days before the draw, this is how many people were in the queue. So there were only 199 that were above 600. So basically what that means is these people either had a provincial nomination or they had a job offer supported, a job offer, well, they had a nomination from the province, or more than likely they had extra points that were coming through either a job offer or something else at a high level. So there's not a lot anymore. And you'll remember that job offers now are no longer 600 points. You get 50 points if you're a skill level B or A, and some O's. But if you're a 0 skill level, then you can get up to 200 points. So that's probably these people here. So a bunch of CEOs, executives, and provincial nominees. But then you start to drop down, and you can see the total. So this is where it's a little bit difficult, and this is where I wish they would break it down a little bit more. But within this draw, and remember the draw, if I scroll back up here, remember it was 3,202 people. So within that group, all of these people in this range here from 601, all of these people were extended invitations. And then anyone in the 401 to 450, you can see there's 10,839. Well, basically, there were, you can do the math, right? So subtract these numbers, subtract 764, 199, and subtract that from 3,202, and you guys are the mathematicians. You'll see how many of this number were pulled out. So basically, well, you know what? Because this is, and this is just a guess here, so bear with me as I get my little calculator out. I could have probably done this before, but if we had 10,839 there, and then we're just going to take and subtract, let's see here. So we had a total of, so 764. This is hilarious. You guys are probably thinking, holy cow, what is this guy doing? He went to law school because he is terrible at math. And that is true. That's why I did. So we've got 963 in the top two categories. And then we know that out of that, there's 3,202 total. So minus 963 equals 2,239. And I know I'm getting really technical, but basically out of this 10,839, 2,239 of these people, and this is an estimate, so there's probably more that rush to get their profile submitted, so that are in this 401 to 450 range. So that means if you then subtract from 10,839, you subtract 2,239, that leaves you with about 8,600 people that are still left in this range that were not drawn. And then you start going down further, okay? And sorry, you know what? As I look at this, I can see now. I shouldn't be goofy. I can actually see this. I was looking, and now I see that they do have a better breakdown. So you can see. So you pull this out. So if you've got 2,239, it's going to pull out. Well, obviously there's a lot of 440s, right? So 440 was the total. There's probably more. It encompasses all of this, and like almost all of these, and then in here. That makes up the difference to round up to the total. Anyways, I think you guys understand what I'm doing. I am going to definitely give up my day job as a math teacher. I'll let you guys do the math. But anyways, this is what people do. So they go through, they look at all of these totals, and then they try to figure out for themselves, well, if this number of people have actually been if they have been given invitations to apply, then there's only going to be so many spots left. And we don't know at this stage how many permanent residents have been landed in Canada. We know that for 2017, it's also going to include people who were given invitations to apply last year. I went through and I did do some math, and we know that this year to date, there's been approximately, give or take my math math problems and my adding problems, there is almost 55,000 ITAs that have been extended. And so people think, okay, if there's already 55,000 given, and without wasting everybody's time, there's probably around, I'd say about 72,000. That's probably accurate. About 72,000 approximately candidates are going to be extended opportunities to land as permanent residents in Canada through the Federal Skilled Worker Program, the Federal Skilled Trade, or the CEC. And I really didn't mean to get so complicated, but just accept the fact that there's going to be probably about 72,000, give or take, permanent residents that are going to land that are economic immigrants. Within that group, through the federal programs, not the provincial nominees. And so within that group, we've got 54,487. Some of them are not going to accept those invitations to apply. They're going to realize they made a mistake. They're going to back up, and they're going to decline the invitation, and then they're going to resubmit. And some of you have maybe done that. But the reality is you cannot rely on the number of invitations to apply that have been granted to date, in other words, 54,487, as an indicator of how many people are actually going to land as immigrants in Canada this year. There's going to be some that are going to be pulled from last year. There's going to be a number of those going forward, right as of now, July, that are actually not going to be landed this year, but will land next year. And so understand those numbers that they give us, you can't use the number of invitations to apply as an indicator of how many are still going to be extended this year. Okay? So basically with all of this, what I'm saying is that no matter how much we try to guess what's going to happen, we can't with any degree of accuracy. And so what I'm telling my clients, once again, is that all you can do, if you're concerned about money, and that was the question that Margarita had, I can't afford to spend the extra money. And one thing I will tell you, go ahead and get your ECA. Those are valid for 5 years. So you're never going to waste your money getting an educational credential assessment. But then she also asks about language tests. Well, those are valid for 2 years. So in my mind, if you are in the range of about 380, and maybe personally that's my cutoff, if you're in the range of 380, then it's probably worth, or 380 points or higher comprehensive ranking system scores, then this is just me, right? Then at that stage, I think it's worth it to get your language assessment. I actually did, I did a blog post on this topic, and I'll put it in the comment sections, but let's see if I can find it. 5 things to do. You know, I've done so many of these blogs, I just Google search them now. Okay, here, maybe this is it here. It looks, see, it shows up the first one. Okay, so these are the top 5 things to do to prepare before submitting your express entry profile. So in this, I actually talk about the things you need to do before you just jump in and submit your profile. So I'll put a link to this in the comment section below. Actually, what I should do, and I apologize, these are rough, everybody. This is not a slick video, but hey, I think that's what makes it good, is it's just me. Anyways, this is a post that I did on my Canadian Immigration Podcast site, and that has traditionally been the source of a lot of my information. But I did an episode where I discussed the top 5 things that you need to do. And one of them is understanding whether or not you rank high enough to actually waste your money or justify wasting your money on getting language tests, getting police clearances, getting immigration medicals, getting all of those things that cost money. And so think about it this way. At this stage, if you're below 380, I wouldn't waste your time doing those things. Not at this stage. If you are above 380, then maybe it's worth it. But over the course of this year, given the increase to the French language ability and the points that are allocated to French speakers, as well as those who have siblings in Canada, I think at this stage, those points are starting to have a little bit of an effect. Now, we won't know fully until we see another couple draws come through, but I think if you are below 380, then it's probably not worth it. And in fact, I personally really question whether the point totals are going to drop down to 400. And if we go back just to the standpoint of these of the candidates that are in the pool, you know, when you're looking at 10,839 in this 401 to 450, well, if you go up here, and I keep flipping around, but let's see the previous rounds, you can see as you go through all these previous rounds that on average they're between, it's right around 3,500 every draw that happens, okay? And so 3,500 are usually extended. And so if you're doing your math, there's always going to be individuals that are going to be, and I'm going to enlarge this so everybody can see, there's always going to be people that are in the higher ranges. And I'm going to back up. So there's always going to be people that are going to be in the highest ranges above 450. So in this range here, that number is going to increase, it's going to decrease, but there's always going to be these people, and if you're in that range, you're pretty much guaranteed. If you're in the 401 to 450, then it's going to be tougher. And if you even break it down here, you can see where the bottleneck is, right? So even in the 401 to 410, we still have 4,000 people here, and that's because it's never gotten down to that level. And then even in this here, you can see 2,289 are in that 411 to 420, and it did dip into that range. These ones, 421 and up, are often going to get flushed out. Now, they haven't with the last 2 draws, but we'll just have to see. Okay, I think I have bored everybody completely with this statistical breakdown, which basically means nobody knows. And so if that's the case, everyone, what I recommend is that we focus on the things that we can control, and this whole lengthy discussion over statistics, I'm never going to talk about it again on these EE Live Q&As. I think you understand that there's no way of knowing for sure, but if you're close in the range, you can afford to do what you need to do. So in other words, 380, around that range, then it's worth it to submit everything. But if you're a person that's at 370 and you still want to get your profile in and you're not concerned about the cost of the language assessment in particular, and the educational credential assessment, those are two that you absolutely need before you submit your profiles, then go ahead. Just do it. All right. Done. I'm now going to move on to the next question that was sent to me. All right. So I'm going to pull it up here. And this question comes from Navjot. And Navjot says, "Hi Mark, greetings for the day. I want to know, can anyone simultaneously create EE profiles at the same time, where in one, the husband is a principal applicant, and the other one, where the wife is the principal applicant?" And so basically what he's asking is there any issue with spouses submitting their own profile in the express entry pool and then just seeing which one gets drawn? Well, normally I would tell you it makes no sense to do that. Why waste the time to submit two profiles when clearly you can calculate whether you or your spouse has the higher score? But I want to get to what Navjot, his question really relates to, and this is a great question, and this is why I'm answering it again. So he said the idea behind doing this is as follows, basically. So he said, my spouse, being the principal applicant with English scores, her CRS comes to 428. While with the husband being the principal applicant, the score is 400. But the knock code for the husband is such that he will get an expression of interest from the Ontario province. So while the couple is interested to save the $1,500, because that's the cost, right, of getting through that OINP, the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, so they want to try if it can happen without spending the nomination fee. So please address the issue of creating two profiles simultaneously on your Facebook post, or answer me with an answer to this on message link. So Navjot, your question was selected. So this is the only time where I would say that it makes sense having two profiles. There's no harm in doing that, because ultimately one of you is going to receive an invitation to apply, and at that stage you're going to proceed forward with the electronic application for permanent residence. So there's no harm in one person, as long as you don't mind the cost associated with some of the provincial nominee programs. There's no harm in proceeding down that path with one applicant while the other one is going through the regular EE stream. All right? There we go. Thanks. Great question. Okay, this one's from Wakas, and he says, "Dear Mark, good day. I saw your live Q&A for Express Entry Canada, and you're doing a fabulous job." Okay, you guys, when you send me the questions, you don't have to give me these pats on the back and say how wonderful I am. It sure is nice hearing people say that, but by all means, it's perfectly fine. You don't need to do that. I will still answer your question if it's a good one that we can use for the purposes of this EE Live Q&A. So regardless, Wakas, thank you for that. I'm a Pakistani national living in Saudi Arabia for work. I have just graduated in 2017, about a month ago. Okay, so Wakas is right in the midst of this here. I was studying online from a virtual university in Pakistan, but at the same time, I was working in IT sector at Saudi Arabia for more than 8 years. Okay, great. My question is, is Canadian immigration will acknowledge my work experience while I was undergraduate all this time? Okay, so the question is, can you still get credit for your work experience if you were studying at the same time? And I get this question quite frequently. Wakas says, I have all the reference letters from the respective organizations in Saudi Arabia where I've worked and gained this experience. So the answer to this question relates to the type of immigration program you're going through. Now remember, Express Entry itself is not a program. So in other words, Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada confirms to everybody that it is not a program itself. It is just a management system to allow them to govern how many people go through the actual permanent resident programs. And those are the Federal Skilled Worker Program, which is the vast majority of you, including Wakas, the Canadian Experience Class, if you're so fortunate to currently be working in Canada and have worked for at least 1 year and meet the minimum language requirements, or the Federal Skilled Trade Program. And then I'll also tack on one more, and that is the provincial nominee programs that have particular express entry streams. So depending upon which of those you're going through, what you're looking at is the eligibility requirements. And if you're in Canada and you're studying in Canada, under the Canadian Experience class, you can't claim points or you can't claim work experience for work performed while you were a student, while you were studying. But if you're outside of Canada, that has nothing to do with it. So if Wakas, if you're trying to claim your work experience, then absolutely you can. There's no restrictions. You just have to meet the minimum requirements, which is at least 30 hours a week, 1,560 hours worked per year, and actually have worked for at least a year. Well, you've indicated here that you've been working for 8 years. And so you're not going to have an issue. As long as it was full-time, paid work, and it meets the requirements that IRCC has set, then you can count it. There's no restriction. Now, and obviously with your school, there's no restrictions in particular on online schools, but when the assessment comes from WES, they're the ones who are going to decide whether that education was sufficient to equate to an educational credential in Canada. Okay, awesome, Wakas. Thank you. All right, last but not least is Assad. And Assad, I'm glad that I have a chance to answer your question. I'm not sure if you're listening in right now, but yeah, I definitely wanted to give you special treatment here. So he says, "Hi, Mark. Thank you for creating the Facebook group. It's a blessing for many of us. I have subscribed to your step-by-step learning guide and would highly recommend it to everyone. As you say, it's awesome." Okay, I do say it's awesome, but I appreciate someone else confirming that it's awesome who's actually subscribed to it and taken it. Okay, and Assad, I actually sent you an email regarding this. So he says, "I have a general question which could be useful for many in our Facebook group." Okay, it is about an online degree, and in most of the cases, the university is situated in another city or a different country, but as it is an online program, so the study is completed mostly from your hometown. So, while creating an express entry profile, what should one mention under city town of study? The town where the university is located, or the hometown as this is where the person is actually carrying out their learning activities and exams as well. So this is an awesome, awesome question. And then he goes on to say, if the university is from another country and one mentions the town of the university where completing the eAPR, could it trigger a need for a police clearance from that country? If it does, there's no way one can get it as they were not physically there. And then he says, on the other hand, if one mentions their hometown, it may be a cause of confusion to immigration officers. I hope I've clearly mentioned the issue, and I'm also sure the answer to this question will benefit many in our Facebook EE Law page. I agree, Assad. This is a great question. And so let's tackle it right off the start. So I'm going to rephrase the first one. So basically he's saying, when you're submitting your express entry profile, you have to indicate where the course of study took place. Well, there is no problem whatsoever. If the school, wherever it's located, that's where you're going to put where the study took place. Remember, there's always opportunities once you get to the electronic application for permanent residence stage to provide a separate letter of explanation that explains this was an online course, I lived here, I studied virtually. So when it comes to actually determining which to put, if you put where the course, the university, I always put the location of the university, where it's located. Because in your personal history section, that's where you can specifically state where you've lived. And it's your personal history section, and when you get to the eAPR stage, your travel history that you also have to list, that is what will trigger the need for a police clearance. So not listing your education and the school and where it's happened, but where you actually live. So you don't need, if you have any confusion and you're at a spot within the EE profile when you're completing it and you're uncertain, if it's the school, then put where the school is located, and then ultimately, when it comes to the electronic application for permanent residence, you can clarify that you lived in one place and list that in your personal history. And then in a letter of explanation, to avoid this confusion which the immigration officers have, you explain, in the personal history section, I indicated that I was living here while I was studying. The school was there, but it was online, and that's why I answered the questions the way I did. But I was living and physically resident in this location, your hometown. All right? So that's a fantastic question. Thanks so much for asking it. All right, folks. So that is essentially what we've got for today. And I don't really have anything funny to share with you. Every Q&A, I usually take the time to share a few things that are happening in my life personally. I can tell you, actually, here's something I want to show everyone. Here is one of the benefits of Alberta. And then after I share this, I'll get to some questions for you guys because I can't help myself. With you guys that are here tuned in, watching it live, I'm gonna jump in and I'm gonna answer some of your questions. But before I get to that, I want to show you something here. And I'm gonna flip back to my browser, and then I'm gonna type in this. All right. This right here, I'm not sure if you can see it very good, but this is one of the coolest things that anyone in Alberta can attend. It's called, and up here you can see, the Calgary Stampede. And so I don't know if any of you are familiar with rodeos and things like that, chuck wagon races and bull riders. As a kid on the farm, I actually did do the steer riding 2 years at one of our local rodeos. But it's this huge exhibition. It has huge money that the cowboys can that they can win, and this like there's just a ton of different things that kids can do. You can even practice milking a cow, which many of you probably have had experience with, but a lot of the city slickers haven't. And so there's all of these different activities and just tons of cool activities. And I am going there tomorrow with my family. So I'm super stoked. So you guys are going to have to check this out. So if you get here to Canada, this is where you guys have to check out and stop in and actually attend this phenomenal event. So Sandy said, yep, I went there in 2013 after the big flood. Was amazing. Yes, it's totally cool. Awesome. All right, so there, I'll just share that with you, and I'm going there tomorrow, so I'll take some pictures and I'll share it with you. And, I also forgot, I'm a member of the Canadian Bar Association, and our Alberta South section, I used to be the chair, but you serve as the chair, and then you move on and you give other younger lawyers the opportunity to serve in leadership positions, but I'm a member of it. Every year we host a Canadian Bar Association barbecue with the immigration officers. And it's an awesome chance to get together with them and build relationships, and we're really looking forward to it. So there's some officers that are good friends that we're going to get together and, cook some hamburgers and hot dogs and have all kinds of, there's vegetarian options that some of our members that are vegetarians have. It's just phenomenal. It's so much fun. So I'm going to be there tomorrow, and I'll share some pictures with some of the officers with you too. So that I'm attending that tomorrow too. So I'm super excited about it. Okay, all right. Let's see where we're going to start here for questions. We are at 38 minutes here, and I don't know how long these are supposed to be. I guess they're as long as people will stick around and listen. Okay, so let's slip back here. I saw a good question. Okay, Atul. Okay, Atul, thanks for watching again. Hello, Mark. Does paid vacation of 2 weeks count in 1 year CEC experience time frame? Yes, 100% yes. So if you are on a paid vacation, it is considered as being part of that 1 year. If, however, you get permission from your employer, like many of my Filipino clients, to return back to the Philippines for 1 month, that's not paid. So it's an unpaid leave, then you can't claim it. And that was confirmed specifically at our National Immigration Conference that I attended here in June last month with the immigration officers. So they confirmed that. If it is a paid vacation, then you can count it. Great question. Awesome. Okay, let's scroll down here. Okay, Paula Nunes. Hey, Mark, I've lived in Canada for 2 years in high school and 2 years of university. Okay, for 4 years, and I graduated from my practical nursing program next year. Great, that's awesome. I want to apply for my PR, but I'm wondering if I will be penalized because I have never worked in Canada before. Okay, so Paula, one of the things here that you have to appreciate is that you need to meet the minimum eligibility requirements in order to qualify through express entry. And one of them is that you have at least 1 year of skilled work experience. Some students have in the previous 10 years, and some students actually obtained that before they came to study. And if that's your situation and you can still meet the minimum eligibility requirements, then it doesn't matter. But if you're looking to apply from within Canada, you have no prior work experience, then you actually need to accumulate that 1 year. Now, for you, the benefit, depending on which province you live in, there are some opportunities to be able to qualify depending upon the various provincial nominee programs, but that 1 year under express entry will help you to qualify through the Canadian Experience class, which only requires 1 year of skilled work experience in Canada. And remember, your work experience needs to be, if you are an LPN, practical nursing program, I'm assuming it's a licensed practical nurse, but if that's the program you're going through, then you actually need to work in that occupation. You will get your post-grad work permit. You should be able to get a job in that field. And ultimately, you need to make sure that that employer is willing to support you or at least offer you that letter to support your work experience. And then you'll get points, maximum points for your age probably. Your English will be phenomenal and you'll get points for that. And you've got a really, really good opportunity given the fact you can also claim your Canadian studies to get points for that. So, great question. Thank you. All right, now I'm going to scroll down here and let's see what we have. Sandy. She asks, someone I know is planning on immigrating to BC, whereas I'm headed to Alberta. Which would you prefer? LOL. I don't think I even need to answer that, Sandy. I think you know. And I love British Columbia. I spent the last week there with my brothers, gold panning. I actually wish I had uploaded a picture of that, but I tried to do, as I indicated in my last EE Live Q&A, I tried to do a live video showing me and my brothers, and we were riding in the truck, and I was holding up my phone like this, and I was trying to get us all in there. It was really awesome until I realized that the stupid cell reception didn't reach up into the mountains so high where we went. But anyways, it was a wonderful day. And we were also swinging off of this rope into the lake and jumping off of these cliffs into the water. Very cool. I'm sure you guys have awesome places like that in your countries as well. So Sandy, Alberta. And Alberta only has a 5% GST versus the 14% and others sales tax that you have to pay in the other provinces. So anyways, that's just my bias. All right, let's see. Okay, Amro, I'm so happy to watch you live now on Facebook. Well, that's great. I'm so happy to read your comments. I'm 25 years old, IELTS 6.5 in each module, and have 4 years experience, bachelor's degree. With all the mentioned details, I'm not eligible to apply to EE. I don't know the reason. And how to solve it, really. Something I'd like to know your opinion about is that I have a Canadian friend who lives in Ontario. She loves me. This is awesome. Okay, she loves me and I love her as well. What if I marry her? Will that increase my points? Keep in touch. She is 2 older than me, sir. Need to know your... This is awesome. This is hilarious. Amro, I think you need to maybe book a consultation with me and we'll go over all of those issues. I think really that's probably your best interest. Trying to answer this, you've got a potential spousal sponsorship issue here, but your Canadian friend needs to be more than a friend. They actually need to be a spouse, whether that's a common law spouse or actually get married. And then I'd recommend she sponsors you for permanent residence through that route. You're not going to get any extra points through that. But ultimately, I recommend you book a consultation with me, and I'll put a link to that in my notes. That's awesome. See, this is real life, folks. This is phenomenal. Great question. Okay, so Paula says she lives in BC. Great. That's awesome. Okay. I think we answered that, Deepak. What are the chances with CRS score 390? I think it's quite low right now, very low. Unless something changes drastically, I think anyone under 400 it's going to be a real stretch. But if you're over 380, I think it's still worth you keeping your profile in the pool just in case, because as we have seen, the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program and some other provinces, without any warning, just announce these crazy programs. Like if you're an IT professional and you're in these knock descriptions, or some of the other provinces. And so in those circumstances, that's what I recommend you do, is that you do put your profile in, and maybe there's something that opens up with the PNPs, or maybe Express Entry changes the rules like they've done. You don't know, and then all of a sudden they change the rules, implement points for some personal characteristic that you have, like a sibling in Canada, and then bang, you're given an invitation to apply. All right. Okay, Ravit says, what is the alternate option for work experience letter? My past employer is not providing me a job letter. I've done teaching job in Ontario for approximately 2 years. Wow, you're in Ontario and your stupid employer won't give you a reference letter? That's garbage. Well, the reality is you do everything in your power to get it, okay? And I'm not sure why they're not giving it, but by law they have to give you at least some confirmation. If you're still working there, then I guess they don't necessarily have to, but it really irritates me because that tells me that your employer just wants to keep you locked in and doesn't want to give you the option of becoming a permanent resident, and using a sports analogy, cause you to become a free agent who can actually play for any employer. So so basically you do all you can, and then after that, each of those different requirements that they want to see in your reference letters, you need to find other ways to prove it. So if you're trying to prove the hours of work that you've worked each week, then you need to find some other source that shows that you've got at least 30 hours of work that 30 hours a week that you've worked, or go through whatever other process you can to prove that you've been paid a wage, that you have 1 year of work experience. In other words, the duration of time that you've been working for them. But there's no specific formula on what will work. You just have to do the best that you can to compensate for the fact you don't have your reference letter. All right. Okay, let's see. Theodore. Okay, I'm going to have to wrap this up. I won't be able to answer everybody's question in this EE Live Q&A, but we'll go through Theodore here. So Theodore says, after I started to work in Canada, June 20th, 2016, I got an ITA in May of this year. Great. I then submitted my PR application. Oh, I see what you're saying here. In July 5th, I then realized I did not meet the 1 year experience in Canada, and I requested to withdraw the application. Should I have requested to withdraw a PR application, or should I have left it processed since my PR application was submitted in July after my 12 months experience was completed, working 35 hours weekly? When it comes to that situation, and I know they're working on it, sometimes the invitations to apply are given to people when they have only accumulated, say, 11 months of experience. Well, the reality is you have an obligation to make sure that you meet that minimum requirement, and that you must meet the eligibility at the time in which the invitation is applied. So when you submit your electronic application for permanent residence, I stand corrected, you need to make sure that you maintain the minimum eligibility for those programs. And with CEC, as you've indicated, 1 year is accurate. I would have done the same thing. What is your comprehensive ranking system score? Maybe I'm not going to get to the answer to that, Theodore, but it really depends on that. I'm assuming that you can probably resubmit, re-get back in, but maybe you were one of those people who was drawn at the 413 level. But yeah, I would have done the same thing if you didn't meet that requirement. I know that there is some directives, and in some cases, if you like you've said, after a year you're then eligible, or I should say once you've submitted, by the time you get around to submitting your electronic application for permanent residence, you're now eligible. But in your situation, I probably would have done the same thing. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Mohammed says, hi Mark, basically he got his AINP, submitted his file to the federal government 6 months back. He did his master's in Canada. Do I suggest he submits his profile in EE again, or just wait for the federal approval through the provincial nominee program? It's too long these days. It's 16 months for approval. Well, Mohammed, it's up to you. You can totally submit an express entry application even though you've got another one in the queue. So if you think the express entry you're going to get drawn and it's going to happen and come through faster than the AINP, then go for it. There's no harm in doing that whatsoever. All right. Okay, Kamran stuck in an IT conference. Call multiple clients down in South America. No problem, Kamran. Thanks for chiming in. Okay, CRS points 430. Arvinder, I think you're in the range. I really do. If not this draw, maybe the next draw, but I think you are in the range, Arvinder, with 430. Sheila, I'll put the links in for your for consultations. It's interesting. I really should have a staff member here with me who is putting the comments immediately into the comment section below, but it's just me. So my staff, they're like 4:30, I'm out of here. They're actually really awesome, but only I'm crazy enough to stay this late. Let's see here. Some of these questions are a little bit more complicated. Let's see. Okay, Mohammed says, Dear Mark, I received the file number of immigration section on December 28, 2016. You filled in the forms, the IMM 1000, the IMM 008 for Canada, and the dependent declaration, but he not reply me. Please tell me who I do. My case of family response, please answer. Mohammed, there's not quite enough information for me to understand. Usually, if you've got a file in the queue, you can do a case-specific inquiry, and that case-specific inquiry is something that you can do online. So I recommend that you do that to the government and just inquire into the status of it. If you have someone who's in Canada, they can call the toll-free number. If they're your representative or someone who's authorized to receive information on your behalf, and they can call and inquire. But ultimately, that's... I can't offer any other suggestions other than that. Okay, Paula again says, I'm a dual citizen. Does that conflict with my future application? Not at all. Just pick a citizenship and run with it. You're going to indicate your citizenships within your profile anyways. Okay, Sandy, regarding the marriage thing. Okay, I'm marrying the friend who wants to move to BC. Oh, this is awesome. This is like, I don't know, Dr. Phil. No, it's not Dr. Phil at all. Those of you who are in Canada probably know him. Okay, so let's see here. This is going to be the last one, and then I'm going to have to close her down answering questions here. I'm supposed to actually document so that everybody can search these easier. Justin told me, my IT person, he said, you need to keep your topics narrow so that anyone who wants to search for the answers can easily find them. Well, when I answer the questions in the live feed here, it's impossible for you to remember all the answers that I gave. Oh well, I'll just do the best I can. Okay, so let's get back to Sandy's question here, and this is it. This is the last one, Sandy. Regarding the marriage thing, I'm marrying the friend who wants to move to BC. Fantastic. Congratulations, Sandy. He's headed to Manitoba first for 2 years because of a job. I'll be marrying him after he's been there for about a year and moving over shortly after. I graduated from the University of Manitoba. That's where I went to law school at Robson Hall. Fantastic place. Okay, provided I get authorized. Okay, although he'll nominate me, or in this case sponsor, so I'm assuming he's a Canadian, I worry that I'll be accused of marrying for citizenship. No, don't worry about it. No, don't at all. Is that a sensible concern to have? Must I be married for a certain length of time before applying? No. Now, the requirements are pretty straightforward for spousal sponsorship, and obviously this is express entry, not spousal. But if you want to book a consult, I can walk you through the whole process. I can explain to you how it works, the common problem areas that people experience, how to make sure that your application is pretty bulletproof. In other words, that you've got everything in there that is going to help you to have the best possible chance at approval. So if you want to reach out to me, we can set up a consultation, and in half an hour, Sandy, I can guide you through that whole process. All right. Well, I'm just scrolling down here, and there are so many questions. I'm sorry I didn't have a chance to get to everyone's there, but thanks for attending. Thanks for being a part of this. You guys are all awesome. I'll finish off once again by just pulling in my, if I can find it here, my express entry, complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself. This is limited time now. So as of the end of July, I'm going to be closing it off and making some improvements. And I'm not exactly sure when it's going to go live again. But as of the end of July, I'm going to be closing it off to any new subscriptions. So if you want to get in, now's the chance to do it. $39 US per month is the monthly subscription, and you can cancel anytime you want. But I'd recommend, if you do want to get in and you're looking at applying right now, now's the time to do it. All right, folks, thanks a lot for everything. Have a wonderful evening, morning, afternoon, whatever time it is, and you're part of this wonderful world. And I wish you all the best as you navigate this crazy world of express entry. Take care.